This video is brought to you by IFL Watches, one of our favorite brands. More on them later.
Today we're going to talk about why I killed Michael.
What is up, Watch fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
What's up? I am Sam.
And today we've got a great episode for you guys, jam-packed, a ton of topics, from Audemars Piguet and Patek Philippe to Rolex to why Sam killed Michael. I mean, it's a very sad story.
Sorry, guys.
You guys get the full scoop today. We're finally addressing it. Also, what watches you're looking forward to. We're doing a very special unboxing today as well. You're not going to want to miss this unboxing. It's from Christopher Ward. It's a really amazing watch, well under $20,000. I think you're going to love. And we're going to talk about what Sam hates most about me. This is unscripted, unfiltered. These are the things that Sam hates most about me. Today's a great episode. You're really not going to want to miss this one. Let's do it. Okay, so the first question I want to ask you here is, so what is your favorite Rolex Submariner and why?
Ooh, good question. So the three that stick out to me, number one, it's got to be the Hulk.
Yep.
And this is not a specific order. I'll give my answer in a second, but it's the Hulk.
Yep.
Some of those vintage purple hazes.
Yep.
Those just, I love them.
Yeah, like reference 1680 and a couple of.
I mean, very similar to, not similar as far as, what the watch is, but kind of how your gold Rolex patina that we recently spoke about.
Yes.
I just love how, I love color in watches, but I love purple too.
Yep.
So to see watches that kind of develop that patina, to me, is just always interesting to see. And lastly, the classic Bond watch reference 6538, which is kind of the first Rolex I've ever seen in real life. And then the first Rolex the first watch that I saw where I was like, oh, like, that's cool. I kind of want that brand.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of funny, too, because Rolex in the Bond films went from, Rolex has gone from something very utilitarian, right, this tool to be trusted by James Bond, to now more of a piece of jewelry. So it's kind of funny to see how the watches evolved. And the other two watches you picked are definitely more on the jewelry side, right? Those Rolexes, were predominantly yellow gold, solid. Some later ones were two-tone, but those are decidedly jewelry watches. And then obviously the Hulk is back to a little utilitarian, but it's bigger, right? I mean, it's all, it's not polished, right? It's all brushed finish, but it's still kind of like a bright jewelry kind of watch, right?
It's definitely, I guess, I get where you're going with the jewelry side. I just look at those watches, and every time I see someone wearing them, I don't know, they just look so cool. They really do. Yeah. And I don't look at it so much as I don't so much look at it when I see someone wearing it as like they're wearing this piece of jewelry. Granted, they're not using it for what it's meant to be used for. You're wearing it to wear this watch, whether you like it or whether you wanted a Rolex or whether you just wanted to wear a green watch.
Right.
But no, I get where you're going with that. If I had to pick out of the three that I just mentioned, I'm probably going to lean towards the Hulk, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm shocked you didn't go with the purple haze.
I know. You know what it is? I don't know. There's just, every time I see a Hulk, I just like, I'm drawn to it.
Big difference in price too, right? Purple hazes go over $100,000, and the Hulk is a $17,000 watch. Still a very expensive.
I'm a bargain shopper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like me.
Yeah, just like you.
What's funny is, when I got into watches casually, the Hulks were undesirable. Right? People didn't even want them.
Interesting.
Hulks, you can get a discount, for a Hulk and a Rolex AD. So times have changed, right? Because when I got into it, Hulks were like a $7,000 watch. Now it's a $17,000 to $20,000 watch. So times have changed.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like they've all gone up. All of those kind of Submariners have increased in price from what they probably were 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, obviously since 9 years ago.
Culturally, people also just feel, I think, more comfortable wearing a bright green watch.
Yeah, I think you can get away with it a little bit more. Obviously, wearing the purple haze becomes... I don't know. It's not for everyone. I understand that.
Yeah. Well, if you're wearing a purple haze, you're a very specific kind of special kind of person, right? Like you clearly have a lot of money and you're into vintage watches. So you fall in a really specific bucket of people. You're more likely to own the company than you are to be worried about what your coworkers are thinking about you, right? Maybe at that point you're worried about what your staff is thinking of you, right? These are $100,000 watches. These are crazy watches.
Where they kind of do lose me is I don't sometimes always love how the bezel will stay so blue and the dial itself gets more of that purple. I'm sure, I think it matches, but I don't know. It's a little off for me.
That's a little, well, you actually may be touching on something you may not even realize. Like, we actually don't know when a bezel was born with the watch or if it's been replaced since.
Interesting.
That's extremely, it's always impossible to actually tell. You could tell if the bezel is correct, meaning if it's the right bezel, but you can't tell if it's original to the watch.
Gotcha.
So auction houses are kind of famous for doing part swaps. So you actually may be onto something.
So the last thing that I'll leave off, if the purple haze, if for me to say the purple haze, I'd really have to find one where the bezel matches a little bit more like the dial. It's patinaed a little bit and it's not so blue still.
Right.
What would be your favorite if you had to pick?
Submariner. Well, we're going to talk about my favorite Submariner in an upcoming episode. Okay. But I'll also tell you that, I really love the Hulk. It's a great watch. I really am a big Smurf fan, similar era Rolex, white gold. And, so far as modern Rolex, it's kind of difficult because Submariners, because I'm really not a tool watch guy. I like precious metal, You don't
say.
You don't say, yeah. And I may even in an episode to come talk about a gem set Submariner that I think is really interesting and why I think that we should all be considering gem set Submariners. So, yeah, more to come on that later. Do you prefer Patek Philippe's Calatrava or JLC's Reverso?
Good question. I want them both. No, if I had to pick in a very real way, I'm going with the Calatrava. To me, if I had to buy one gold dress watch, which is on my radar, a Calatrava is a little bit out of the budget from what I'm looking at, but if I had to pick one gold dress watch that I could just wear, and that's my gold dress watch, I think the Calatrava just does it so well.
Really?
I just love the way that watch looks.
Tell me about it.
To me, it's elegant and there's not much going on.
Yep.
It's just so simplistic and not simplistic in design, but there's not much going on with it. It's just a basic dress watch.
Yeah.
Whereas I love it. To me, the Reverso can get a little bit sporty sometimes, depending on which one you have.
But the Reverso is a sports watch.
Okay.
Right. Are you familiar with the inception of the Reverso?
Not too well.
So no. I'll tell you, no problem at all. So the Reverso dates back to the early 1930s. I believe it could have been 31, right? 1931, and then the Calatrava was 1932. I could be wrong here, but I'm really, really close if I'm wrong. And the Reverso was designed to be a sports watch for polo players. Okay. That needed the time, but were very used to their mallets or the balls, maybe even shattering the glass of their watch. Okay, so they wanted to flip it over and have a stainless steel or yellow gold covering that wouldn't as easily crack or crack at all. Right? I think the shock would still break the balance staff and you have a problem with your watch, but that was the idea. From there, they said, wait, we've got this blank piece of metal. Why not engrave it?
Gotcha.
But that's how that was born. But I think it's really interesting, that the dress watch and the sports watch of the era are different, but they're both ultra classy. Even the sports watch is elegant and classy, It reminds me of the Breitling Premier in the 1940s when Willy Breitling was looking at the, what the world would be like post-war. He designed a elegant chronograph, right? It's no more the days of the, wartime aggressive, right, chronographs. Now it's a chronograph you could wear to a martini and dinner date with your wife, right? Which wasn't really the vibe during the war. People were doing martinis, I suppose, somewhere. But that wasn't the vibe of the era.
So have you been wearing your Reverso since you purchased it?
So I bought, with you, I bought a white gold Reverso that I absolutely love. I brought it on a trip pretty recently just to show a buddy. Really, really love the watch. I haven't worn it a ton because I've been traveling a lot. I've been busy. Plus, I just got that Gerald Charles that I really, really love, that I've been wearing a ton. I actually went and put on my GMT today specifically because, it's actually funny, this is the first sweater I ever wore when I wore this watch.
Interesting.
So I put on the sweater and then I was like, oh yeah, GMT. But I really didn't want to wear the Gerald Charles today because I wanted to try out the rest of my collection because it's been hogging my wrist because I really love the watch. It's amazing. The case proportions are amazing. Everything is amazing about it. It's been a conversation starter at every turn between watch people and non-watch people. So I've been loving it, but I'm like, okay, I still need to wear my other watches. I don't love when one watch monopolizes your entire life.
When you just, I don't know why, it just made me think of this. You're like, yeah, it's a huge conversation starter. And I just picture you to follow that up with, yeah, it's mostly 50-year-old men.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's mostly 50-year-old men. Although I was at a diner the other day and the woman that works at my local diner goes, what an interesting watch.
And the woman's probably 65.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're crushing it. Yeah.
Dude, my AARP score, everyone on Social Security loves me. This video is brought to you by IFL Watches, one of our favorite brands here at Theo and Harris. Why? Because IFL takes a completely personal and unique and beautiful, not to mention often hand-painted, like today's two limited editions, approach to watchmaking. These watches are canvases, right? They're ways to express yourself and your personal, right, point of view. Many of their pieces, like the two limited editions we're going to get to in just a second, are hand-painted. They're not just painted, they're hand-painted. And they kind of transform them from just wristwatches to kind of canvases for art, right? Which I just think is absolutely incredible. Both of the pieces we'll be talking about today are based off of the Tissot 35mm PRX, which is such a classic and reliable,
beautiful watch,
right? Affordable Swiss watch. The first is their Spaceman concept, where they take this beautiful blue dial and add this kind of, galactic, right, kind of effect, and then paint this, playful astronaut floating up on
the balloons.
The balloons. It's hysterical. I think that's fun. I think it's very neat and cool.
This is everything that I love about watches.
Exactly. That's generally what IFL is, whether they're designing a Tissot Spaceman or they're doing something, right, with a Casio with all their different colors and translucence and rainbows. I love that stuff, right? I'm a fan of the vintage Rolex Stellas. I'm a fan of the Rolex Rainbows. I love playfulness in watches. I love color. And their other concept today is also based off of, again, the Tissot 35mm PRX, and it's their Dialicious, and it's filled with all of Sam's favorite foods.
I love desserts.
Yeah, I love desserts, right? Again, it's ridiculous, but it's so cool, right? In a world where everyone's watches are kind of looking the same and kind of fitting in, IFL stands out, again,
Agreed.
whether with the Spaceman or the Dialicious or a whole bunch of their other watches from their amazing collection, of which I have quite a few at this point. You can't miss with IFL.
Agreed. And I love what they did with the PRX, which is just such a reliable, tried and true watch that everyone that I know that has one loves wearing it, and they really just keep on going and no issues at all.
The Tissot PRX is really one of the greatest releases of the last few years. Ultra reliable, ultra stylish, and affordable. And IFL brings them to the next level. So I highly suggest you head on over to IFL Watches and explore their entire collection, from these PRXs to everything else they have to offer. I really do think that everyone needs an IFL in their collection.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you so much to IFL for sponsoring today's video, and everyone else, go head on over. Okay, so next question.
God.
Royal Oak or Nautilus?
Okay, I'm gonna hot take here.
Yeah.
I'm going VC222.
Okay, but that wasn't the question. But
Well, I'm just gonna say that's what I would pick.
Oh, tell me, talk to me, come on.
I don't know. There's just something about that in gold that when I see it, I understand that it's not a Genta design,
right?
But to me, it's just a little bit different than what you see when you look at the Royal Oak or the Nautilus, and I just think it's a beautiful integrated bracelet. It's done perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't know. In gold, I just in yellow gold, that watch is it's beautiful. I'd be curious to see what they do in the future with that watch.
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously always rumors that they're going to release it in steel. I also wonder if they may tease and do titanium or tantalum or something. I don't know.
Jesus, I can't talk today. Titanium would be interesting.
It would, and I'm not a titanium watch guy. I have to bring Michael into this conversation. I'm not a titanium watch guy, but the 222 is a blank canvas in many ways. It really is.
Yeah. I think that if they took the approach of maybe bringing in different materials into making that watch, it might, I don't know if it'll increase sales or anything, but I think that it just makes them a little bit more different than what you see. Maybe take some popularity away from the Royal Oak or Nautilus.
The 222 will never be a gettable watch. It'll always be gettable. It'll always be a very, very difficult watch to get, right? I could see a world in which I asked a friend of mine a favor for an introduction on a 222.
Gotcha.
I could see that being, I'm not saying I'll do it, but I'm saying I could see that world. And I really don't know if I would do it. And if I did, I don't know. I guess if I did, it would have been on the yellow gold, but I knew that because it was a first release, it was out of the question anyway. So maybe long from now, when if the hype ever wears down a little bit and they're a little bit more gettable, I might think the favor for the introduction is worth it. I do, because I'm very much about, well, what is the size of the favor we're asking, and how far are we going to push this? Because it's the same thing with my opinion on a Patek allocation, right? I would very much like a 5712, but I'm not going to ask that size of a favor. It's too large of a favor.
I hope that they release it in carbon fiber and you end up buying it.
Yeah, no, I would.
Because you're gonna just hate having that.
What I'd love to see that watch in platinum. Like if that watch came out in platinum, and we're doing another episode where I do some Q&A, I think I might actually. I don't know. I'm not saying I would choose it over a day-date, but I think I actually might. Like, it's actually quite possible that because I really want a platinum day-date, and it's very possible I would say I'm going to shelf the platinum day-date for the platinum 222.
Gotcha.
Because that is just a brick. I mean, and a real watch guy's watch. 222 is, I would say even more than a 15202 AP Royal Oak. I would say more than 5711. The 222 is a watch guy's integrated sports watch.
That's
so
fair.
So very good with the pick.
Thank you. If I had to answer the question, I'm going to go Nautilus. One of the watches that we're going to open in a second, to me, I think is the watch that I would rather get than a Royal Oak.
Yep.
Not comparing the two. They're in two different ballparks,
Yep.
but to me, it's a little bit more my speed.
Yeah, even pricing, right?
Pricing too. And to me, I've only seen a Nautilus a few times in person. I've never tried one on.
Yep.
And I remember a quick story. I was in Miami with a few buddies in 2021, and we went to a club called Space.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Space is this mecca for DJs and house music lovers of all types in the heart of Miami.
Yes.
And the club opens at typically 11 p.m.
Yep.
and the parties go till at least like 12 or 1 p.m. the next day.
Yes.
If not 24 full hours.
Yes.
It's wild. And I remember I was talking with someone, and it's always weird in Miami because I never know how anyone made their money.
Right.
Like, it's like, yeah, like I like lease yachts. And I'm like, you're wearing a Royal Oak. Like that doesn't, I guess there's a lot of money in yacht leasing. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was talking to this one guy who happened to have a rose gold Nautilus on.
Yeah.
And he made apparently all his money in crypto. I don't know. Maybe. I'll take his word for it. Seeing that watch in person.
Yeah.
Seeing the detail, the sizing, the proportions, everything about it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
To me, it was like when I first saw your Gerald Charles.
Yes.
It was very much just like, oh, wow, like this is, I can't think of flaws here.
Yes.
It really is just like a perfect watch. It's a lot of money, but it just is beautiful.
Yep.
And I just remember that, and I was like, Nautilus.
Yeah, the Nautilus is so elegant. The photos that I always, the watch isn't even the centerpiece of the conversation, but the photos of Andrea Pirlo, the famous Italian soccer player, wearing his 5712. I always just found that photo to be such a good sales, because it's just so integrated. Use the word integrated. It's just so integrated into his look. I think he just looks stunning, and that watch is just such a gem on his wrist. That's kind of the photo that sold me that watch. It sounds.
And I like it that he's in it almost looks like a golf polo. He's like a soccer polo.
Yeah, it's
just so casually worn.
Watches are unimportant to the time. They can't speed, slow, or stop it, and our phones tell it better. But as vessels for memories, they know few rivals.
Okay, so next question, and this is a serious one. Why? Tell me the story. Why did you kill Michael?
So I jump into the channel.
Yes.
And I started talking to Michael a lot more, and I got into a big denim kick through him, raw denim, which for those who don't know is an expensive black hole.
Right.
And I just got into a lot of debt, so I just, he had to go.
Yeah,
No, in all seriousness, I talked to Michael at least probably more than you right now.
Yeah.
And I've known Michael as long as you've known him.
Yeah.
And a funny story we should tell next time the three of us do an episode is when he had to sleep on your couch for 2 weeks.
Yes. Yes.
But no, I love Michael dearly. Michael, if you're watching this, hey buddy, Michael's been so supportive and answering all my questions and helping me out, getting myself kind of situated in this channel since joining. It's just been a huge help. He's been so nice about it and answering all my texts and questions that I have. And it's just been great.
Because obviously not only are you sitting in the seat, but you're also pressing play and recording on the camera.
Yeah.
Sam really, took on a lot of responsibility to make, this work.
Yeah.
And Michael has helped you out a ton. This isn't just you getting in front of a computer, camera, and just talking about watches. This is a far larger ordeal.
I think, you and I have had the conversation before, but really just me joining is adding new faces to the channel. Yep. Michael is not going anywhere. He's still on the channel. I know that we could have done a better job in that transition. And I could let you talk about kind of what 2024 looks like as far as videos, just to kind of help people out.
I think, so bringing Sam on the channel, I was really excited just because, well, for a bunch of reasons. One, I'm just excited to sit down and talk to my buddy about watches. I mean, Michael and I have worked together for years, and some of the only time that we ever actually sit down and talk, I would say, vast majority is when we're recording videos. So when Michael walks in the room and we're about to record, I'm always like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" Because I really never call Michael just because I know that he's so busy and I never want to be a bug or a burden at all. So I love sitting down to record videos with Michael, and it's for the same reason kind of that I love sitting down and recording videos with you. I love that it's different pace. Michael and I have much different banter than you and I.
100%.
And I know that, Michael and I have refined our banter so much. Like Michael and I, and Michael's funnier than I am, but Michael and I very much just know what the other is saying and thinking kind of all the time. It's that thing. And you and I do as well, but it's not just about that. It's also about keeping the consumer in mind. So not only are we managing knowing what the other is thinking, and I basically always know what you're thinking, you always kind of know what I'm thinking, but it's also how do we keep this most interesting for the viewer as well. So it's definitely a juggling act, 100%. So we're finding our rhythm as well. And I think that a big part of that, and some of the comments were a little bit critical, and sometimes, our energy was a little bit high in the beginning because we were overcompensating, obviously, for a bit of nerves getting Sam on the channel. And, as nice or nasty as a comment may have been, a critical comment about the energy was probably correct, right? Taking a deeper breath and saying, hey, let's tone it down a little bit, bring in the same message, bring in the same love for watches, but maybe in a little bit more of a, comfortable way. Of course that's good business. Of course that's the right, thing to do. I've been in this business for a long time on YouTube, for 9 years, and I got some really mean comments, but I would always look at them and say, is he right about something? And a lot of the times they are, or a good portion of the times. I've learned a lot from critical comments, and some people choose to deliver their critical comments nicely, and some people choose not to. And either way, on a level, I'm very, very grateful for the critical comments because they help you get better. And if you can't look at a critical comment and assess it for its truth value, then I don't know how well you're going to be doing, forget on YouTube, just in life, right? If you can't look at a comment and say, that hurts because he's a little bit right. He's mean, and if he was my son, I'd kick his ass. But he's not. So all I can look at him or her for is to be a mirror to look in. So anyway, I digress. I think we've done a good job with the transition. It wasn't perfect, but I think that we've done a good job. And that's it. I'm just super glad that you're here, and I'm super grateful to you and to Michael. And I love you guys. So thank you. And I love you guys. And listen, every time someone wants to say that I don't care what the audience thinks about the direction of the channel or the company, what you've got to understand is it's not that I don't care what you think. It's that I've got two things. One, a hell of a lot more context about the overall direction that things are moving in, okay? So I have a more informed point of view on virtually everything as it pertains to the company than one could, because we don't talk, right, to that length. And then B, at the end of the day, that every entrepreneur worth their salt, while needs to listen and be reflective, also needs to have the resolve and will to say, you may be telling me no, but my gut's telling me I need to move forward in this direction. And that's always pivoting in slight, but you've got to be able to barrel forward despite criticism. So even though I welcome it and I love it, and I've deleted some of your comments if they were particularly, mean and hateful and didn't have any value so far as I saw it. But even if it had value, if it was too mean, I would delete it, and I'll still do that. But I believe in freedom of speech. I believe that you have every right to say it, of course. I don't believe that, YouTube should be censoring you from posting. I don't believe that. But I certainly, retain the right to allow or disallow people's voice on what is essentially in my living room, right? I mean, if you are speaking, hatefully in my living room, I'm going to ask you to leave. I'm not denying your right to say hateful things at all. You can go outside and say it. There's no problem. You can go on Instagram and say it. I can't remove that. I'm not going to report you for hate comment. No. But I don't particularly want to be thinking on a Wednesday night if Sam goes on the YouTube to check, comments to see really, really mean stuff, because it's hard enough as it is. So, anyway, long story short, you're never going to catch me, lying about any of that, because I'm wearing it on my sleeve. So while we're on the topic, are you enjoying being on the channel?
This has been, in a very real way, it's been phenomenal. It's a full circle moment. Because I remember before this channel was even started, I remember you coming over to me and saying, I'm going to start a vintage watch business. Yeah. And then shortly after that, it's like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to start being a part of YouTube. And to see it grow from its infancy to what it is now, it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And I'm actually loving every second of it. Definitely comes with its bouts. I've never really been in the public forum, so that is a little nerve-wracking in the sense of it's not like I'm starting something from scratch or you're starting something from scratch. I'm joining something that has so many thousand views every episode, and people have become attached to you, to Michael, even to Anna. There's still comments, and so to join this thing, it is nerve-wracking, because to me, I want to be as best prepared as I can be for these conversations and for these videos, and I really do put in a lot of time, even though people may not believe it, into educating myself and ensuring that what I'm bringing to is if not, the most expert opinion, just my own take on it.
Right.
From someone who is just someone who's really interested.
Personal
exactly.
take, yeah.
And it that comes with its own struggles. The other struggles is so many people have been so nice about me joining. Other people hate it and are very vocal about it in the comments. And I get that that's one part, whether I agree or disagree with what they're saying. That's just a part of it. And I kind of welcome it. I read a lot of the comments mainly because I'm looking for constructive criticism. I know that a lot of the comments recently are hey man, like just take it down a few tones. Like you're a little too excited. And I know that I could be like that. I could talk too fast. I understand all of these things. Others are you and I being too similar. And others, which are great, when we were talking about enamel dials, people were talking about other watch companies that do enamel dials at more of an entry level fee of a watch. And it helps in educating myself and saying, all right, where can I work on to just take my game and being a part of this channel to the next level. Yeah. So I read a lot of them. And all I could really say is to the people that have been a fan of me joining this channel since I did about a month ago or a couple of weeks ago, or to the people that have kind of warmed up to me over the last couple episodes, I just say thank you very much. Thank you for the love and support. It really does mean a lot. And I don't even know what to say. It truly is just so nice to read those comments. And to the people that don't care for me for whatever reason, you're entitled to your opinion and I respect that. And all I could say is I'm working to try to get better on every episode and hopefully you'll warm up to me eventually. And if not, I just really thank you for taking the time to give me a shot. And that's all I could say to that.
100%.
Period end.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that before, about when I started, and I make mistakes still, of course, but I made a lot of my mistakes when the channel still was only getting 300 views a video, so fewer critics, right? Naturally fewer views, fewer critics. So I had like 2 years, almost a year and a half, 2 year practice run before anyone was really watching. And you, from day one,
just jumped right in.
You jumped right in.
To the sharks real quick.
Yeah, I really did, Yeah.
Some fucking friend.
Some friend. Jesus. All right. Yeah.
Just the last thing I was going to say to that is I can't read every comment that is being posted. If we could just tag my Instagram somewhere, reach out to me, send me a DM. You don't have to follow me, but I'm happy to talk with anyone, take any criticism, whatever it may be. Thank you.
Love that. All right. Into the next question.
Let's do it.
What are you looking forward to buying in 2024?
So the first one that I'm looking forward to is Christopher Ward's 12.
Yes. Well, we actually have one here. We can unbox for a little bit of review.
A little bit of a teaser. That's watch that I haven't tried on yet, but has been on my radar. Thank you.
The honor.
The other one that I've said a couple times is assuming that Omega does actually go forward with this Daniel Craig white Speedy. Oh, this is just going to rip right open. That is also a watch that I would love to try to get on a wait list for, although very unlikely. Those are the two. How about you?
The watch I'm looking forward to 2024, I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm looking forward to seeing one of these. I saw one in passing, but and it looked amazing on my wrist when I tried it on. But this will be the first time I'm actually getting to spend any real time with it. So let's see what color we've got here. I actually love their packaging.
This is really
nice, right?
I'm playing with blocks like I'm a kid again. Wow.
Is that the color that you like? Yeah.
This is the one that I
Let's try it off.
Let's do it. Here you go. I'll let you do the honors first.
I don't like sticky things. You go ahead. That's true. There's a piece of plastic on it, and I don't like sticky things.
I'm sorry.
I've never had my face painted.
Oh my God, there's so many jokes that I can make with that. It's not worth it.
The fucking dial, man. It's beautiful.
The dial is, wow. This is just, the detail is just gorgeous.
Here, you go first. I'll go. This
beautiful. Feels nice.
What a great looking watch. That dial is amazing.
The dial is gorgeous. And I was reading some reviews recently about it, and I know that people are complaining about the movement is like one of the things that they've been complaining about, because the power reserve I think is like 36 hours and the PRX is 80. But this to me just looks...
to me, this looks more refined and richer, far.
100%. I think
it's twice the money, and I think it's far more than twice the watch.
Yes. I think that I would argue that the PRX is a little undervalued for what they're charging.
Yeah, I think the PRX is a great watch, no doubt about it.
But I think the big difference is when you look at this watch, it almost looks like it was carved from like one piece of steel.
Yeah.
And I think the obviously the Nautiluses and the Royal Oaks take that to the next level.
Movement or what is
open movement. And I think that where the PRX loses me a little bit is it doesn't look like, as you just mentioned, refined.
What is it, stainless steel? What does it say?
This should be stainless steel. I know they make them in titanium too.
What else does it say on the case?
Can you dig it?
Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Get the f*** out of here.
You like it?
I knew that you could.
You're
f***ing with me.
Cool, right?
Buddy.
You like it?
Oh, thank you. God, this is a pleasant f***ing surprise.
Right?
Oh my God, I got to get the size now.
Isn't that sweet?
Oh my God.
We'll get a size later. I love it.
So have you tried this on yet or no?
No, I don't.
God.
It's your watch.
This is beautiful. And what I like about the color too, it's like the color of this watch reminds me of some of the Grand Seikos as far as like the blue, baby blue, I don't know what you want to call it. But
again, I mean, it really represents, I think, kind of full circle on, you go back 10 years ago and people were afraid to wear a green, watch.
Have you put this on your wrist yet?
Now, no. And now fast forward to today and people are dying for interesting color combinations. I mean, they're dying for an interesting approach to watchmaking,
That's beautiful.
I mean, look at that with my light denim. That's amazing.
That looks great.
It looks amazing.
I mean, Christopher Ward just does. I think they just knocked it out of the park.
The date window execution is phenomenal.
And also the fact that the texture of the dial is their cross.
I know.
That's like, so to me, cool. That's taking it a step further where I think that's, again, to me, and I like the PRX. I've never tried one on, I'll be honest. But to me, when I look at photos, it loses me a little bit on the dial.
Again, it's a fantastic watch for the money. There's
I'm also
no doubt about it. But if you can, if you can swing the extra couple of bucks, you are getting a lot more watch. I mean, even in case finishing, you're getting
the case
more.
is just
not to mention, obviously, the connection to Japek,
yes.
That the talent, obviously, that was behind the Japek Antarctique, then went over to Christopher Ward and I mean, for better or for worse, essentially, reimagined it at a lower price point. I mean, it's essentially, right? The DNA is there, right? Yeah. I mean, Christopher Ward's original marketing brand speak going over to the 12 was, stainless steel, right? Meaning steel as in like a robbery, right? Mm-hmm. It's stainless steel. And they don't just make it in stainless steel; they also make it in titanium. But the point is, there are all these other watches from the Royal Oak into the Nautilus and all these other watches that are astronomically expensive, and the Christopher Ward 12 essentially begs the question, why? I can recognize that they are better. I understand that their AP Royal Oak is better, but is it $29,000 when this is $1,400 or $1,300? Like, come on. Like, that's just, where's the...
Yeah, and I mean, every time that I've tried a Royal Oak on or I've seen someone with the Royal Oak, I always go out of my way to just say like, hey, like that's a great watch. And I love talking to people about it because majority of people that I see that have them, they love them.
Yeah.
But to me, when you look at the price, I mean, I don't know if I bought a Royal Oak and what, a Royal Oak, just a plain stainless steel is $35,000, $30,000.
Yeah, like $30,000.
I don't know if I'd get $30,000 worth of enjoyment out of.
Again, it always obviously depends on how much money you're allocating toward watches. So you say, I'd rather have, whatever. It's no problem buying the Royal Oak, but on a sheerly just logical level, it's a good thought exercise to say, well, okay, well if the baseline is $1,200 for this, what is a 37 millimeter Royal Oak really ought to cost? Mm-hmm. Is $30,000 really the right number, or in that am I paying for a lot of branding? Right? Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've got a Royal Oak. I love my Royal Oak. Yeah, I don't wear it.
This is just beautiful.
But there's everything. We're definitely buying branding on a lot of stuff, right? I mean, I used the example the other day. I mean, I wear a lot of, I wear a lot of polo sweaters. I particularly wear a lot of polo cashmere sweaters. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm illustrating a point. Those sweaters are like $500 a sweater. I know it sounds ridiculous. I'm an asshole, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
heard.
I'll never.
But the point is, I'm sure that there's a company out there that delivers the same sweater, maybe even a better sweater for less money. I don't doubt that. The difference is they're unbranded. There's not even a horse on it. So I'm not buying it because it's Ralph Lauren and I want to wear a Ralph Lauren product. It's just, well, I know this is good. I know I like this because it's kind of like the stand. It's kind of like the thing. Mm-hmm. And if there was another brand, I'd be open to it. But the reason I don't know about them is because they haven't spent the money on the marketing, right? Mm-hmm. That's why you don't know about them, right? You're kind of lucky if someone's told you about one of those brands. And that kind of explains the delta in price a lot of the time, right? Polo things are more expensive because they've spent billions of dollars making sure you know the brand, right? So when you buy a smaller boutique brand, yeah, you're not paying for a lot of those marketing dollars. Maybe you're also paying for different sets of margins and all these different things. But anyway, long story short, if you have an intellectual kind of a look at like, well, what does a $30,000 watch? What ought it cost? Marketing aside, it's just a good question.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer to that question. I don't
know. Just one last thing that I'll also mention with what I love with Christopher Ward's done with the 12 too is in their marketing and talking about this watch, they don't shy away from the fact that this is a Genta inspired watch.
Right.
They're very honest and open about it.
He's the father of the movement.
And I really appreciate that. Whereas I think a lot of watch companies, when we see these homages or watches that could be seen as homages or ripoffs, I'd rather them almost just come out and say it. I think that it just shows that, oh, no, you're confident in what you're kind of creating. It's like, no, we're inspired by Genta and how we designed this watch, and this is our take on it.
Totally.
And I love that. And then the last thing that I'll bring up as we're kind of talking about this and Royal Oak and everything else, and this is probably a good topic for another episode, but I really do love the AP code 1159s. And I know that I think they get a lot of hate from what I've seen. I think that those watches are just absolute gems. Obviously very expensive, but I really love some of the designs that they've done on these watches.
Agreed. Yeah. From what I understand, the one that you actually have up here, this is, what is this called?
I don't know. Actually, this wasn't even one
Star Wheel. The Star Wheel, this 1159 Star Wheel. Apparently, this is one of the most difficult to get Audemars Piguet in the entire collection.
Really?
The Star Wheel apparently is like the hard one. I actually think they're pretty underrated as well.
Some of the skeletons are sick, and then the one that I absolutely just kind of love is are these right here. The perpetual calendars.
Perpetual calendars. Those are insane.
It's gorgeous.
I'm a big 1159 fan. I don't think they're there on figuring out exactly the whole collection yet, and I think that it takes a long time to build a brand around the collection and make people want it, and I think they're making valiant efforts toward that, but I think that they're underrated watches. I think they're really, really cool watches. Yeah. I think that it's an elegant chronograph, but it has that Genta DNA, right? It's got that Genta DNA. Really, Audemars Piguet with the 1159 is faced with a very similar, question that Gerald Charles is faced with, right? The brand of the watch that I recently just picked up, the Maestro 8.0 Squilette. The point is, you as a brand are built on this stroke of brilliance by Gerald Genta, right? Maybe the greatest designer of watches history's ever known. How do you go on from there to build a dynamic collection if you want to introduce another case? Right? Now Gerald Charles has introduced a whole collection, and it's a really cool collection of different colors and different materials, and that's all well and good. That's amazing. Different movements. It's fantastic stuff. Complication. But they're only using one case at the moment. Now, I'm not on the business end of any of this. I'm just on the consumer end, right? I like to analyze the business, but I totally admit that I'm limited, right, as to what I could possibly speak to. I don't necessarily know. I don't have an opinion one way or the other that Gerald Charles should have another watch. I'm interested to see what they do in the future. I have no idea what they do. I have no idea. But same thing with AP. My only opinion with AP was, AP is a large company, right? It is not named Gerald Genta same way Gerald Charles is, right? Their identity is Gerald Genta, the maestro himself, the genius. Audemars Piguet existed long before Gerald Genta. So for them today to only be a Genta company, only a Royal Oak company, would be kind of not good, right? That basically means that we've done nothing since Genta, whereas Gerald Charles is just a different perspective. It's our entire identity, at least to date, is the maestro, right? Audemars Piguet has to push further and build out a more dynamic collection. Audemars Piguet is also a multi-billion-dollar company, right? It sells far more watches, right? It produces far more watches, right? So it's a different game, but they're faced with a similar question: how do we continue to design and expand our collection in language that is consistent with this one icon that Gerald Genta made, the Royal Oak and then the Maestro, respectively, right? It's just a good question.
Well, and going off of that point, the one thing I'll add to that is I think in AP's instance, or in their case, what I think helps them is because the Royal Oak is so iconic, everyone wants that, that it gives them that opportunity to put other R&D behind, whether it's an 1159 or other watches that might take off, might not. I don't know if anything will ever become what the Royal Oak has. It's just such a big name in watches.
Right.
But having that opportunity because they have that namestay is really cool. And I think can allow them to be a little bit different and interesting. And I think the 1159 kind of does that. And then the last thing I'll point out is every time you say Maestro, I can't help but think of Seinfeld. Any Seinfeld fans out there?
Exactly. Hey, Maestro! Quick one. What's the best watch in my collection?
Best watch in your collection? Ooh, I mean, the Gerald Charles is probably like the one that I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I'd have to go that, and being a little bit different. I love a lot of those Piagets that you have.
Yeah.
And besides, they're not for me. I really don't find them as attractive as you do, but they're just so uniquely you, which is why whenever I see them, I just kind of, I laugh.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I talk to a lot of my buddies that have met, Christian just, throughout the years of me knowing them and just being mutual friends or whatever the case is. And they always kind of like assume that you'll have like these like crazy, like watches, almost like a lot of, Rolex or these crazy, you have a lot of precious metal watches, but crazy, more typical watches. And it's like, nah, it's really
more
just tanks.
predictably,
It's just tanks and Piagets.
Yeah.
Like, what? And I was like, yeah, like that's what he's into.
Yeah.
And I think the good thing about your collection, and I think everyone kind of goes through this, I definitely go through this as a I'll say more of an amateur collector, is you figured out what you like, and you've just kind of built a collection around what you like. And there are a few oddball pieces that don't necessarily fit in, like the GMT.
Right.
Obviously very much, that's you and your dad.
Yep.
But that's not you.
Right.
Per se.
No, it definitely represents my relationship with my father.
And I think a lot of the viewers out here are still building on their watch collection and still kind of figuring out, do I like this? Do I like that? I kind of like these three, but how do I incorporate other things?
Yep.
You've kind of just incorporated more of the same brand, just different variations.
I have a bunch of Cartier. I've got a bunch of Piaget. I mean, that's where most of my watches are. But I also have an appreciation for skeleton. The Breguet is another good example, right? The Gerald Charles and the Breguet. It's like, wow, that's funny that the same.
The Breguet actually.
Of course, the same guy owns both those watches.
I forgot about that one though.
That makes perfect sense.
But but that might be my favorite in your collection.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's a wild watch.
Yeah, it's a wild watch. I love it on your wrist because you have a bigger wrist than I do.
Yeah.
When I see it on your wrist, I think it looks even better than on my wrist.
You have a tiny wrist.
What's your biggest pet peeve about me?
Biggest pet peeve? Where do I start?
I'm actually kind of nervous.
No, they're not that bad. I'll start off with, it's funny. So Christian is very, very on time when it comes to dinner reservations or drinks with a client. But there have been countless amount of times.
I call them appointments.
Appointments, yeah. There have been countless amount of times where I will get a text from you of, hey, I'm leaving the restaurant now. Come by and I'll be home in 20 minutes. Come by and we'll do a drink or whatever. I show up in 20 minutes and I text him, hey, where are you? They're like, we're just leaving the restaurant now. Like, I'll be back in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, the fuck?
When was this?
Oh, countless times when you guys are leaving like Staten Island, if you're out with your family and I come over, or just times where I've come over to your apartment, you're leaving the city and you assume it's going to take, a shorter amount of time, or when we come to film, he'll be like, oh, we'll be done in like an hour. And then we end up being here for 3 hours.
That I do more. I do that more. I underestimate how long things are going to take sometimes, right? Like I'll say like, okay, we have 3 lives to make. That'll take 3 hours. And then it takes 5. And I'm like, shit. I really screwed up, didn't I? And what ends up happening is I always miss dinner, which is not really that big of a deal, but I'll miss dinner a lot because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we met at 1. Why? I'm not gonna have a problem with dinner. We'll be fine. And then we
5 hours later, here we are. Not so much of a pet peeve, but just kind of funny. So when we film these, a lot of the times, like we do these in bursts. Yeah. So depending on what needs to get done, depending on sponsorships, there could be 3 videos that need to get done in a day. Maybe we've done 4 or 5 with the Zero episode. Yeah. And it's funny, on my laptop, a lot of the time is either the discussion guide. I have a lot of notes written on my notepad, and then we'll pull up watches just because it's easier to reference. And I'm pulling up the watches, and it is a huge pet peeve of his that I hit the sponsored images that show up first. Right. And I do it by accident, but I do it like every time. So the one time we were recording, and it was like our 4th or 5th episode, we've been doing this for 4 hours, and I click on it, and he goes, you and the sponsored images. And I look at him, and I go, if that's the worst thing that's happened today, we're doing pretty good. Just like at each other's throats.
I think the most logical, like if I ask someone what's your biggest pet peeve about me, I think the best answer is how many pet peeves you have. Yeah. Well, like that is just so
I got 2 more. The other one is at a certain point, it doesn't always happen, and you and I never really debate. So, or we see eye to eye on a lot of things, going back to the conversation of us being more yin and yin. I know one of the comments I was correct, and I was cracking up on it. It's one of the reasons that we've been best friends for so long. Yeah. But one of the things that always cracks me up is at a certain point in the night, whether it's with family, friends, we'll just be drinking, and out of nowhere, you just want to debate about anything. Yeah. It could be cards. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I just always laugh because I'm like, oh, that's classic Christian. It's midnight, and he's going to debate.
He pulls out a scotch and a bucket of ice, and now it's
and then I'm not going home for another 2 hours. And then the last one, which is kind of funny, and I don't know what this pet peeve is, but so I'll just explain it. Christian and I were on our trip recently. We're in a hotel room, and it's 2 queen beds. No, we did not share a bed. I know that was going to probably be a comment that people would get if I didn't clarify. And in between is a nightstand. So we get back and we throw some TV on, and Chris goes, yeah, just put it on the timer for like an hour or whatever. So I put it on the timer for an hour, and I go to sleep. I happen to be a heavy sleeper, and I know my pet peeves. Wait, we'll get into my pet peeves in a second. Your pet peeves with me. I fall asleep, and I wake up the next morning, TV's still on. So I was like, oh, I guess the timer didn't work, the sleep. And he goes, yeah, I wanted to kill you because the TV was on the whole night. So I just look back and I go, all you had to do was roll over and the remote was right there in the center console, or the center, nightstand in between the two of us, equal distance. So you could have easily just rolled over and just shut off the TV. And he goes, that makes sense, but I just wanted to be annoyed with you about it.
It never occurred to me to do that. Never.
Yeah.
In my mind, and this is just so true, like in my mind, I had delegated that out to you, and you had assumed responsibility for turning the TV off. So in my mind, like that was it. It was just like, why isn't it done? I'm having a hard time understanding why the television is on when I delegated and you accepted. But of course, the right answer is just turn it off.
Whereas I would have just rolled over and turned it off.
I'm an idiot for that. Idiot, but it never even occurred.
So those are my pet peeves for you. I want to guess my pet peeves for you to make.
I love everything about you.
No, you're going to say that.
I'm going to go with this.
No, it's going to be that I snore too much, or I snore very loud.
Way too much. So
I talk very loud.
You do,
especially like when I shouldn't be talking loud. I will. I know that's also been a negative comment about me, and I appreciate you reaching out and saying it because I could try to work on it. But
okay, you said that really low. Yeah. Because I could try to work on it,
and I just get really excited sommes. So maybe that's the ADHD in me.
Yeah,
but
I do get a little bit of
100%.
Some ADHD, and I've got some, what do you want to call it?
Textural issues?
Yeah, textural issues. Yeah. Our quirks that's the yin yang.
Yeah, our quirks are very different.
Yeah, exactly.
Spot on.
Yeah, because I'm definitely the type that's more like this. Like, you guys don't know that because we don't hang out a lot because you guys are on the television. But I'm a little bit more like this, and Sam's a little bit more, out there. Right? I'm the introvert.
Yeah,
by far. Yeah. Like again, no one's gonna believe that, but that's
no, it's the truth.
Oh yeah. I don't need to talk to anybody.
The amount of times
my best friend right here, I have my mom over there, I got my dad. We're good. I don't need to talk to anybody.
The amount of times I'll be talking with him, he's like, I gotta go meet this guy in the city to he's a watch fan or he's a Zero member or whatever, and I need to do this because this is like my duty to do it. But he's like, I'd rather just be home and like just watching like, I don't know, Sopranos or something.
Yeah. Because keeping in mind, like guys, I say this to myself all the time. Like, I wonder if there's a person in the world that talks more than I do. And of course the answer is yes. There are probably freaking tens of millions. Like, of course. But it's hard for me to imagine someone talking more when I literally wake up and talk from. I wake up at 6:15. I'm talking at 7, and I don't stop talking until 9. Like, right full. Like, when am I not talking?
The comments are going to be, this guy doesn't shut the F up, period, end.
and sometimes it's like, wow, I would love to just have some silence right now. I would love that. But nope, got the next meeting.
Any other pet peeves?
No, I love you. I think you're great.
I love you too.
Yeah.
Thank you for the watch.
Yeah, you're welcome. Merry Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas.
Love you, buddy.
Love you.
That's it. If you guys like this episode, go ahead and like it. I think Sam's really coming into his own. So comment down below if you agree. And if you disagree, also comment and also upvote. If you'd like more content from Theo and Harris, go ahead on the link in the description and click on the Zero, our private podcast community. We release podcasts every week. We actually just released one with you and I just today. That was hysterical.
I got to listen to it.
You got to listen to it. It was awesome. We talked about Grand Seiko being we talked about a lot of things. You got to go watch the episode. It's fantastic. You can even sign up for a 7-day free trial. Go ahead and do that now. Take care. Straps, as many of you should know, bring a whole world of potential to mix up your watch collection. They breathe new life into watches. They help you pull out different colors. They give them new personality. Straps can be very addictive. I know people with 2 watches and 10 straps because it adds so many facets to a collection in a fairly easy and fun way. So that's why they become such a part of the Theo and Harris culture and identity. I think we sell more exotic straps than almost anybody because I just love them so much and I love sharing them with you.